She lost everything on Christmas Eve, hugged her dog in the snow, and was saved by a mysterious billionaire and his little daughter.
The snow falls slowly, almost unhurried, as if it knows no one is waiting for it with joy at that bus stop. Sabrina clutches Charlie against her chest, feeling the dog's heart beating too fast. Or is it hers? The cold cuts through her skin, but she barely feels it anymore. Maybe because her body has learned to shut down what hurts too much. Maybe because, after losing her mother, her job, and her home in less than 3 months, Boston's winter seems like just another obstacle among so many. She closes her eyes for a moment and tries to remember the last time she felt real warmth. Not the warmth of one body against another out of desperation, but the kind that comes from within, that makes you believe tomorrow might be different. Charlie stirs, restless, and licks her face with a tenderness that nearly brings tears. She smiles, a small, broken smile, but genuine. "It's okay, buddy," she whispers, running her gloved hand over the mutt's head. "We always figure it out, right?" The words sound more like a promise she's making to herself than a certainty. Because the truth is, Sabrina doesn't know anymore what figuring it out means. She's already sold everything of value, already slept in crowded shelters where the smell of disinfectant competed with the smell of despair, already accepted help from strangers who demanded smiles in return. And now, sitting at that empty stop, with snow covering her shoulders like a frozen shroud, she wonders if there's still room for hope when everything around you seems to conspire against you. The wind howls between the buildings, and Sabrina pulls her legs in, trying to take up less space in the world, as if somehow that might make her less vulnerable. She watches the lit storefronts across the street, entire families choosing gifts, children pointing at decorated displays, couples exchanging knowing glances while holding cups of hot chocolate. It all seems so distant, so unreal, that she feels like a ghost watching life happen through glass. How long has it been since she was part of that world? How long has it been since the word home stopped meaning a place and became just a painful memory? Charlie growls softly, not in anger, but in protection. He always knows when she's about to fall apart. Sabrina laughs, but the sound comes out choked. "You're the only thing I got right in my life, you know that?" She presses her forehead against his, breathing deeply, taking in the smell of wet earth and unconditional loyalty that only a dog can have. It was for him that she refused shelters that didn't accept animals. It was for him that she split her last sandwich even when her stomach complained. And it's for him that she still hasn't given up completely. Because someone needs her, even if it's just a 2-year-old mutt who barks at shadows and sleeps pressed against her back.
Night pushes forward, and the movement on the street dwindles. Sabrina knows the last bus will pass soon, and after that only the sharp silence of early morning will remain. She has nowhere to go, no one to call. Her mother left, taking with her not just love, but also the last thread connecting her to anything resembling a future. Medical bills still arrive in the mail, cruel reminders that pain has a price and she can't afford it. Each envelope is a stab, each number a sentence, and now, without a job, without references, without anything but an old coat and a faithful dog, Sabrina faces the question no one wants to ask. How far can you hold on before you break for good? But then, something shifts. A car stops at the corner and the back door opens. A thin voice, childlike, cuts through the snow like an unlikely ray of sunlight. "Daddy, look, her dog is shaking." Sabrina lifts her eyes, confused, and sees a small girl pointing at her with concern written all over her face. Beside the child, a tall man in a dark suit with a closed expression hesitates. For a second, his eyes meet hers, and something silent passes between them. Something Sabrina can't name, but that makes her heart race. She doesn't know if it's fear or hope. Maybe it's both. The girl climbs out of the car before her father can stop her, running to the stop with the determination of someone who's never known distrust. "Do you need help?" she asks, and the simplicity of that phrase, so direct, so pure, disarms every defense Sabrina has built. Charlie wags his tail, betraying his owner, and the girl smiles. "He's beautiful. What's his name?" Sabrina opens her mouth, but no words come out, because suddenly she realizes she's about to make a choice: accept the outstretched hand or keep protecting herself behind the wall of pride. And as the man approaches slowly, with a look that mixes caution and something like compassion, Sabrina feels that maybe, just maybe, the cold isn't forever.
Miles Spencer doesn't usually stop his car for anything, much less for strangers on the street. His life is governed by strategic meetings, million-dollar contracts, and decisions that move fortunes from one side to the other. He learned early that compassion is a dangerous vulnerability in the business world, and that keeping emotional distance is the only way to survive without shattering. But Lucy has the gift of dismantling all his certainties with a single sentence. "Daddy, we can't leave her out there in the cold. And the puppy?" The girl's voice trembles, not with fear, but with an urgency that comes from the heart, that place Miles has tried to keep locked for years. He sighs, runs a hand over his face, and gets out of the car, feeling the snow soak his expensive Italian shoes. Sometimes being a father means giving up control. Sabrina watches the man approach with measured steps, as if he's calculating every move. He's tall, elegant in an almost intimidating way, with an overcoat that probably costs more than she used to make in 3 months of work. But there's something in his eyes, a shadow, a hesitation that keeps her from running. "Sorry for the trouble," he says, and his voice is deep, controlled, but not cold. "My daughter, well, she insists you need help." Sabrina clutches Charlie against her chest, feeling pride wrestle with desperation. She wants to say she's fine, that she can manage on her own, that she doesn't need anyone's pity. But then Lucy smiles at her, a smile so pure, so free of judgment, and the words die in her throat. Because sometimes accepting help isn't weakness. Sometimes it's the only way to stay alive. I don't want to be a problem," Sabrina murmurs, and her own voice sounds strange to her, small, defeated. Miles shakes his head, and for the first time since he got out of the car, something in him relaxes. "It's not a problem. We have room." The simplicity of the offer is devastating. Sabrina looks at Lucy, who's already petting Charlie as if she's known him for years, and then at Miles, who looks away, as if he himself can't believe what he's doing. There's a tension in the air, something unspoken hovering between them. He knows what it's like to carry the weight of loneliness, and she senses that this man, despite all his wealth, understands more than he lets on. "Just for tonight," Sabrina whispers, but even she knows she's lying to herself. Because when you're drowning, any lifeline feels like a miracle.
The car is warm, absurdly warm, and smells of new leather and children's strawberry perfume. Lucy won't stop talking about school, about the approaching Christmas, about how she's always wanted a dog, but Dan said he didn't have time to take care of one. "But now we have Charlie," she announces, with the confidence of someone who's already decided everything on her own. Miles huffs a low laugh, almost imperceptible, and Sabrina realizes he probably doesn't smile much. She shrinks into the seat, trying to take up as little space as possible, as if her presence is a temporary intrusion that will soon be corrected. But Lucy turns to her, eyes shining with genuine curiosity. "Do you have family?" The question is innocent, but cuts deep. Sabrina swallows hard. Not anymore. And that's all she can say before tears threaten to spill over. The mansion appears like an apparition, enormous, illuminated, surrounded by snow-covered gardens that look like something out of a postcard. Sabrina feels her stomach turn. This isn't real. It can't be. People like her don't go into places like this. But Lucy is already pulling her hand, dragging her inside with the excitement of someone who's received an unexpected gift. Come on, come on. You'll love the fireplace." Miles follows behind, carrying Charlie in his arms, an image so surreal that Sabrina has to blink twice to make sure she's not dreaming. He notices her look and shrugs, embarrassed. He was cold. And in that moment, something inside her breaks, not from pain, but from relief. Because maybe, just maybe, there are still good people in the world. Mrs. Mackenzie appears in the entrance hall, wearing an apron and a stern expression, but her eyes reveal curiosity. "Mr. Spencer," she raises an eyebrow, looking from Sabrina to Miles and back to Sabrina. "We have a guest," Miles explains, and the formality in his voice sounds almost comical. "Prepare the guest room and something hot for her to eat." The housekeeper nods, but not without first casting an appraising look at Sabrina. Not one of contempt, but of protection. She's known Miles long enough to know he doesn't bring strangers home. Whatever is happening, it's important. Sabrina feels the weight of that look and lowers her head. But Lucy, oblivious to all the tension, is already showing off the giant Christmas tree in the living room. "We decorate it every year. Can you help?" And Sabrina, even knowing she shouldn't get attached, smiles and answers, "I'd love to." Night moves forward, and Sabrina finds herself sitting at the dining table, a table that could seat 20 people, eating hot soup that tastes like hope. Lucy chatters endlessly, Miles watches in silence, and Charlie snores at her feet, finally at peace. For the first time in months, Sabrina doesn't feel cold, but the fear is still there, whispering in the back of her mind, "This is temporary. Don't get used to it. People like you don't belong in places like this." And when Miles lifts his eyes and stares at her for a second too long, he sees something that scares her more than any storm, the possibility that he might actually care. And caring, she's learned, always comes with loss. But then Lucy yawns, resting her head on Miles's shoulder, and he whispers, "Bedtime, little one." And Sabrina realizes that, for tonight, maybe it's safe to believe.
Morning arrives with a soft light filtering through the velvet curtains, and Sabrina wakes up not knowing where she is. For an instant, panic takes over. That feeling of being lost, displaced, invading a space that doesn't belong to her. But then she feels Charlie's warm weight at her feet, hears the distant crackling of a fireplace, and the memory of the night before returns like a warm wave. She's in the mansion. Miles brought her here. Lucy smiled at her as if they were old friends. Sabrina sits up in bed, too soft, too clean, and looks around. The room is bigger than the entire apartment where she lived with her mother. There are fresh flowers on the nightstand, soft towels folded over a chair, and clean clothes left discreetly on an armchair. Mrs. Mackenzie, probably. Sabrina touches the fabric with her fingertips, as if afraid everything will disappear at the slightest contact. How long has it been since someone took care of her like this, without expecting anything in return? When she comes downstairs, hesitant, she finds Lucy in the living room, sitting on the floor surrounded by boxes of Christmas decorations. The girl looks up and her face lights up. "You're awake! Come help me pick out ornaments for the tree." The child's spontaneity disarms any tension, and Sabrina finds herself truly smiling. Not that polite smile you force in uncomfortable situations, but a smile that springs from some forgotten place inside her chest. She sits next to Lucy, and Charlie immediately throws himself into the girl's lap, drawing crystalline laughter. "He's so cute. Did Daddy say we can keep him?" Sabrina freezes. "No, Lucy, he's mine. We're just visiting." But the word sounds false even to her, because none of this feels like a visit. It feels like a dangerous new beginning. Miles appears in the doorway, wearing jeans and a simple sweater, so different from the suited executive of the night before that Sabrina has to look twice. He's carrying 2 steaming mugs and offers one to her. "Hot chocolate," Lucy insisted. His voice is softer in the morning, less armored. Sabrina accepts the mug, feeling warmth spread through her frozen hands. "Thank you for everything. I don't know how to thank you." Miles shakes his head, uncomfortable with gratitude. "You don't have to. Lucy was right last night. No one should spend the night in the cold."
But there's something more behind the words, an old pain, a silent recognition. Sabrina realizes this man knows loneliness in a way that money can't erase. And for a moment, they look at each other. And it's as if they're sharing a secret that neither knows how to name.
The afternoon unfolds in a delicate dance of closeness and distance. Sabrina helps Lucy hang ornaments, tells stories about childhood Christmases that don't hurt too much to remember yet, and laughs when Charlie tries to bite a plastic garland. Mrs. Mackenzie comes and goes, bringing freshly baked cookies and furtive looks of approval. And Miles watches. He's not intrusive, doesn't ask too many questions, but Sabrina feels the weight of his attention, not of judgment, but of genuine curiosity, as if he's trying to understand how someone who's lost so much can still smile that way. And the truth is, Sabrina doesn't know either. Maybe it's because for the first time in months, she's not just surviving, she's living, even if only for a few stolen hours from a reality that will soon demand its price. When night falls, the fireplace is lit and the room looks like something out of a dream. Lights blinking on the tree, the smell of cinnamon in the air. Lucy nestled between Miles and Sabrina on the couch as they watch an old Christmas movie. Charlie snores at their feet, and the silence is comfortable, almost intimate. Sabrina feels her chest tighten. This is dangerous. This is letting her heart believe in things that aren't for her. But then Lucy takes her hand, small, warm, trusting, and whispers, "You're going to spend Christmas with us, right?" And Sabrina looks at Miles, expecting him to say something, to set boundaries, to remind everyone that this is temporary. But he says nothing. He just looks away toward the fire, jaw tense. And Sabrina realizes he's afraid too, afraid of getting attached, of making room, of repeating some old pain he keeps like a secret. Mrs. Mackenzie appears with a tray of fresh hot chocolate and stops in the doorway, observing the scene. There's something touching there. A closed-off man, a child starved for maternal affection, a woman trying to piece herself back together, and a dog that represents loyalty in its purest form. The housekeeper smiles, almost imperceptibly, and leaves the tray on the coffee table before withdrawing in silence. She's known Miles since he adopted Lucy, watched his struggle to be a good father while keeping his heart protected behind walls of control. And now, for the first time, she sees a crack in those walls. Sabrina doesn't know it, but she's changing the dynamic of that house just by existing in it. She's bringing warmth to a place that, despite all its wealth, has always been frozen inside. Lucy falls asleep in the middle of the movie, and Miles carries her carefully to her room. Sabrina stays alone in the living room, watching the flames dance in the fireplace, and wonders how much time she has left before reality comes looking for her. Because out there, in the dresser drawer of the guest room, is her bag, and inside it, the envelopes with bills she can't pay, reminders of a debt that haunts her like a shadow. She knows she should leave before she gets used to this, before she starts calling this place home. But when Miles returns and sits beside her, leaving a respectful space, but not too distant, and murmurs, "You're welcome to stay as long as you need," Sabrina feels something inside her give way. And for the first time since her mother died, she allows herself to imagine, just imagine, that maybe there are happy endings for people like her.
The idea comes from Lucy, like all the best and most complicated things in that house. "Sabrina, can you be Mrs. Claus this year?" The girl asks with shining eyes, holding a red dress with white details that looks like something out of a fairy tale.
Every year we go to Daddy's company charity event and there's always a Santa Claus, but there's never been a real Mrs. Claus. You'd look beautiful." Sabrina is speechless. The proposal is so innocent, so full of expectation that refusing seems cruel. But something inside her hesitates, not from shame, but from fear that accepting means getting even more involved, putting down roots in soil that isn't hers. Miles appears in the doorway, clearly catching the tail end of the conversation, and crosses his arms. "Lucy, you can't just decide these things on your own." But the look he casts at Sabrina isn't one of disapproval. It's curiosity and maybe hope. Sabrina looks at the dress, at Lucy, at Miles, and feels her chest tighten. It's been so long since she felt part of something bigger than just surviving. I've never done anything like this," she murmurs, touching the soft fabric. Mrs. Mackenzie appears, as always, at exactly the right moment, with a discreet smile. "It'll be perfect, dear. And Miss Lucy is right. We've never had a Mrs. Claus before. It would be special." The housekeeper's words carry a weight of approval Sabrina didn't expect. And suddenly she finds herself nodding, accepting something that goes far beyond wearing a costume. She's accepting being part of, even if temporarily, this strange and makeshift family. And when Lucy shouts with joy and hugs her tightly, Sabrina closes her eyes and allows herself, just for a moment, to imagine she belongs there. The night of the event arrives too quickly. Sabrina stands before the guest room mirror wearing the Mrs. Claus outfit and barely recognizes the woman staring back at her. The dress fits perfectly, the hat with the white pom-pom matches the soft boots, and Mrs. Mackenzie insisted on styling her hair in gentle waves. She looks happy, and that frightens her more than anything, because happiness, she's learned, is something temporary, a promise the universe makes just so it can break it later. Charlie is lying at her feet, watching with those brown eyes full of unconditional loyalty, and Sabrina crouches down to pet him. "What am I doing, buddy? This isn't real. None of this is real." But then Lucy knocks on the door, already dressed as an elf, and the illusion becomes too strong to ignore.
The event hall is dazzling, golden lights, trees decorated to the ceiling, tables laden with food and drink, and dozens of children running between elegant adults. Sabrina feels her stomach turn when they enter. All eyes turn to Miles, the mogul, the host, the man who moves fortunes with a phone call, and then to Lucy, adorable in her costume, and then to her, Sabrina Hardy, the homeless woman who a week ago was sleeping at a bus stop. She wants to disappear, but Lucy holds her hand firmly and pulls her forward. "Come on, the kids are waiting." And suddenly Sabrina is surrounded by curious little faces, by requests whispered in her ear, by tight hugs that smell of hope and chocolate. And something inside her warms in a way that hurts, because these children don't know who she is, where she came from, or what she's lost. To them, she's just Mrs. Claus. And maybe, for tonight, that's enough. Miles watches from a distance, a glass of wine in his hand, and can't look away. There's something about the way Sabrina interacts with the children, genuine, attentive, present, that completely disarms him. She's not just playing a role, she's giving real affection, even though she has so little for herself. He thinks about how he found her, shivering with cold, with nothing but a dog and the clothes on her back. And now she's there, illuminated by the tree lights, smiling in a way that makes his chest tighten. Mrs. Mackenzie approaches, discreet as always, and murmurs beside him,
She's good for Lucy, and maybe good for you too. Miles doesn't respond, but the silence is already a confession, because he knows he's beginning to feel something he swore never to allow again: the desire to protect, to care for, to make room in his life for someone who could leave at any moment. But the night, like all good things, carries its shadows. When Sabrina finally gets a moment alone, escaping to the quiet hallway of the hall, she pulls her phone from her pocket and sees the messages that were waiting: automatic collection reminders, notices of overdue debts, numbers that grow like weeds. $37,000. That's how much she owes for her mother's treatment in the last months of her life. $37,000 that she will never, in any possible universe, be able to pay. Her hands tremble and she leans against the wall, feeling the weight of the world collapse again. How could she forget, even for a few hours? How could she pretend she was someone else, that she had another life? The Mrs. Claus costume suddenly feels like a cruel lie, and she wants to tear it off and run away. But then she hears footsteps, and Miles appears around the corner of the hallway, his expression worried. "Are you okay?" he asks, and his voice is so gentle that Sabrina almost falls apart. She hides her phone too quickly, forces a smile that doesn't fool anyone. "Yes, just needed a minute." Miles approaches slowly, as if handling something fragile. "Sabrina, if you need anything, you can tell me. I know we barely know each other, but..." He hesitates, searching for the right words. "You're not alone. Not anymore." And that sentence, said with such sincerity, breaks down all the defenses Sabrina tried to maintain. She opens her mouth to say something, to tell him about the debts, about the fear, about how she knows she needs to leave before she ruins his life. But before she can, Lucy comes running, holding a card decorated with glitter. "Sabrina, a girl wrote a letter to Mrs. Claus, and it's for you." And Sabrina puts away her phone, swallows her tears, and returns to the hall. Because sometimes all we can do is keep pretending tomorrow doesn't exist.
The letter arrives 3 days after the event, in a manila envelope that seems to carry all the weight of the world. Sabrina recognizes it immediately: the hospital logo in the upper corner, the impersonal tone of official correspondence, the silent promise of bad news. She's alone in the kitchen when Mrs. Mackenzie hands her the envelope, and the housekeeper notices the instant change in the young woman's face. "Everything all right, dear?" The voice is soft, but Sabrina can barely hear over the blood pounding in her ears. "Yes, thank you." The lie comes out automatic, trained by months of pretending everything's fine when nothing is. She waits for Mrs. Mackenzie to leave and then opens the envelope with trembling hands. Final notice: legal action imminent. $42,000. Because, of course, the interest keeps growing. Sabrina closes her eyes and feels the ground disappear beneath her feet. How could she be so stupid to think she could escape this, to think she deserved this fresh start? Charlie presses his nose against her leg, sensing the anguish, and Sabrina crouches down to hug him. Too tight, too desperate. "We need to go," she whispers against the dog's fur, "before this explodes in their faces, before I ruin everything." Because that's what she does, isn't it? Ruins things. Her mother died, leaving debts Sabrina can't pay. She lost her job because she couldn't stop crying, lost the apartment because months of back rent piled up. And now she's about to tarnish Miles Spencer's reputation, a man who took her in out of kindness and who doesn't deserve to be dragged into the hole where she's drowning. The decision forms slowly, painful as a blade. She needs to leave before it's too late, before Lucy gets more attached, before Miles looks at her with that dangerous tenderness that makes her heart want to believe in impossibilities. The afternoon passes in a fog of silent preparations. Sabrina packs the few things she brought, actually almost nothing, because she arrived with nothing. She folds the clothes Mrs. Mackenzie washed and ironed with such care, leaves a thank you note on the dresser, but the words seem too small to express what she feels. Thank you for reminding me there are still good people in the world. That's all she can write before the pen stalls and tears blur the ink. Charlie watches from the doorway, head tilted, confused. He doesn't understand why they're packing again, doesn't understand why they're leaving the place where they finally found warmth. And Sabrina doesn't know how to explain that sometimes love means protecting the people you love, even if it means leaving.
Lucy is at school and Miles at a meeting in the office. Sabrina waited purposely for this moment. She couldn't look in the girl's eyes and say goodbye, couldn't face Miles and see disappointment, or worse, understanding. Mrs. Mackenzie is in the laundry room and the house is too quiet, as if it knows something is about to break. Sabrina descends the stairs slowly, backpack on her shoulders and Charlie on his leash, and each step feels like a cut. She looks one last time at the Christmas tree she helped decorate, at the fireplace where they spent nights laughing, at the table where for the first time in months she felt she belonged to something. And then she opens the front door and leaves, because sometimes courage isn't staying and fighting, but knowing when your presence will hurt more than help. The snow falls again, of course, because the universe has a cruel sense of irony. Sabrina walks through the streets of Boston with Charlie at her side, and it's as if the last few days had been a dream, too good to be true, destined to end. She has no plan, no destination, just the vague idea that she needs to get far enough away so Miles won't feel obligated to help her, so Lucy won't be confused, so their lives can return to normal. But with each block she distances herself from the mansion, the weight in her chest becomes more unbearable. Because for the first time since her mother died, Sabrina had something like a family, and now she's giving it up out of pride, out of fear, out of a deep belief that people like her don't deserve happy endings. Charlie pulls on the leash, reluctant, as if he knows they're making a mistake, and maybe they are. But Sabrina learned that loving someone sometimes means not letting them sink with you. She arrives at the same bus stop where it all began, the place where Miles and Lucy found her, where Charlie shivered with cold, where she was minutes away from giving up for good. It's almost poetic in a bitter way. Sabrina sits on the frozen bench and lets out a humorless laugh. "We're back where we started, buddy." Charlie huddles beside her and she hugs him, feeling the tears finally fall, hot, furious, desperate, because she doesn't want to be here, doesn't want to go back to this life of uncertainty and cold. She wants to be at the mansion, helping Lucy with homework, listening to Miles talk about his day, feeling the warmth of the fireplace. But the envelope in her backpack is a constant reminder. Debts don't disappear. Problems aren't solved with wishes. And she won't drag Miles to the bottom just because she's drowning. Night begins to fall and the cold bites deeper. Sabrina closes her eyes, exhausted, and wonders how long it will take before they notice she's gone. How long until Lucy asks for her? How long until Miles finds the note and sighs, relieved not to have to deal with one more complication? But then she hears the sound of an engine, a door slamming, quick footsteps in the snow, and when she opens her eyes, Miles is standing in front of her, his overcoat disheveled, his hair messed up by the wind, the expression of someone who ran as if his life depended on it. He says nothing for a long moment, just looks at her with a mixture of relief and something that looks dangerously close to hurt. And then, his voice hoarse, he asks, "Did you really think I was going to let you leave like that?" And Sabrina realizes that maybe, just maybe, love isn't about deserving, but about accepting being loved even when you think you don't deserve it.
Miles stands in the snow, and for the first time since Sabrina met him, he looks completely stripped of control. His suit is wrinkled, his tie crooked, and there's an urgency in his eyes that cuts deeper than any words. "Mrs. Mackenzie found your note. Lucy doesn't know you left yet, but she will in 15 minutes when she gets home from school." His voice is steady, but there's a crack in it, small but impossible to ignore. And I don't know what I'm going to tell her. Sabrina stands, trembling, clutching her backpack against her chest like a shield. "You'll tell her the truth, that I was passing through, that I had to go, that—" But Miles shakes his head, taking a step forward, closing the distance between them. "No, I'm not going to lie to my daughter, and you shouldn't lie to yourself either." The words echo in the frozen silence of the street, and Sabrina feels something break inside her, that wall she built brick by brick since her mother died. "You don't understand." Her voice comes out louder than she intended, loaded with desperation. "I have debts, Miles. $42,000 I'll never be able to pay. They're going to sue me, go after everything I have, which is nothing, and I won't let that splash onto you. You have Lucy, you have a reputation, you have a life I have no right to mess up." She pulls the crumpled envelope from her backpack and throws it at him, as if it were an accusation. "This is who I am, someone broken, in debt, with no future, and you deserve better than that." Miles catches the envelope, glances quickly at the contents, and then does something Sabrina never would have expected. He tears the paper in half, and then in half again and again, until the pieces fall in the snow like tragic confetti. There, problem solved. The brutal simplicity of the gesture leaves Sabrina speechless. You can't just," she starts, but Miles interrupts, and now there's an intensity in him that frightens and warms at the same time. "I can and I will, because money is the only thing I have in excess, Sabrina, the only damn thing I know how to do well. But you know what I can't buy?" He moves closer, and his voice drops low, almost a hoarse whisper. "I can't buy the way Lucy smiles when you're around. Can't pay for her to have someone who hugs her the way you hug her. Can't hire someone who looks at that girl and sees a daughter, not an obligation." He takes a deep breath, and Sabrina sees his defenses crumbling. "And I definitely can't buy the way I feel when you're in my house. Like, finally, after years, that place is a real home."
Sabrina is shaking, not from cold, but from something far more dangerous: hope. "Miles, you barely know me. I came into your life a week ago with nothing. But he shakes his head again, and there's a ghost of a smile on his lips. "I know enough. I know you split your last sandwich with a dog, that you stayed cold rather than abandon him at a shelter, that you treated Lucy like she was the most precious thing in the world, even when you yourself were shattered." He raises his hand, hesitates, and then touches her face gently, a tenderness so unexpected that Sabrina feels tears overflow. "I know you're the bravest woman I've ever met, and if you think I'm going to let you face this alone, you don't know me yet." Charlie barks once, as if in agreement, and despite everything, the pain, the fear, the uncertainty, Sabrina laughs through her tears. "I don't want to be a burden," she whispers, and the vulnerability in her voice is total, exposed. Miles moves even closer until his forehead touches hers, and the warmth of his breath mingles with hers in the frozen mist. "You're not a burden. You're—" He searches for the words, and for the first time seems as lost as she is. "You're what was missing. I just didn't know it until you showed up." And then, slowly, as if asking permission, he tilts his head and kisses her forehead, a gesture so pure, so full of promise, that Sabrina feels her heart break and mend at the same time. Because maybe she spent months believing she didn't deserve to be saved. But Miles isn't trying to save her. He's offering his hand so they can save each other. And there's a huge difference in that. "Lucy is going to ask where you were," Miles murmurs without pulling away. "And I'm going to tell her you went to take care of some things, but that you came back. Because it's true, isn't it? You're coming back? The question hangs in the frozen air, and Sabrina knows this is the crossroads, the moment where she chooses between fear and faith, between safe loneliness and risky love. She looks at Charlie, who wags his tail hopefully, looks at Miles, who, for the first time since they met, seems completely vulnerable. And then she thinks of Lucy, that girl who hugged her as if she always knew Sabrina would show up, who called her dog ours, who asked her to be Mrs. Claus as if it were the most important role in the world. And Sabrina realizes that maybe belonging isn't about deserving. Maybe it's about having the courage to accept that someone chooses you, even knowing all your cracks. Yes, she whispers, I'm coming back. Home.
The car is warm when they get in. Miles insists on carrying Charlie in his lap again, and this time Sabrina doesn't argue. On the way to the mansion, the snow begins to lessen, and for the first time in weeks, a stubborn ray of sunlight breaks through the clouds. It's a small omen, almost shy, but Sabrina clings to it. When they arrive, Lucy is on the porch, her eyes wide and red, and the second she sees Sabrina getting out of the car, she runs, sliding in the snow, stumbling but reaching, and throws herself into her arms with a force that nearly knocks them both down. "You came back! You really came back!" The girl sobs against her shoulder, and Sabrina hugs her as tightly as she can, feeling something inside her finally settle. Mrs. Mackenzie watches from the doorway, discreetly wiping her eyes with her apron, and when Sabrina looks at her, the housekeeper simply nods. A silent approval, a welcome to stay. And when Miles places his hand on Sabrina's back, gentle but firm, guiding the three of them inside, she realizes that winter is finally beginning to say goodbye. And maybe, just maybe, spring will bring with it not just flowers, but real new beginnings, the kind born not from perfection, but from the courage to try again.
The months passed like pages turning in a book Sabrina never imagined would be hers to read. The snow gave way to the first buds of spring, and with them came transformations that no winter could erase. The debts were paid off, Miles insisted, and Sabrina learned that accepting help isn't weakness, but a form of love. Lucy officially got a dog and, more importantly, got someone who hugs her before bed and promises to be there when she wakes up. Mrs. Mackenzie finally smiles openly, satisfied to see the mansion filled not just with expensive furniture, but with real laughter and the sound of wet paws running through the hallways. And Miles discovered that opening his heart didn't make him vulnerable, but whole. He looks at Sabrina in the morning while she makes coffee and talks to Charlie and realizes that the home he searched for his whole life was waiting in the form of a woman who appeared in the snow with nothing but hope. Sabrina transformed too, not because she stopped carrying scars, but because she learned that scars are just maps of the battles we survived, and she survived many. She went back to work, this time at the bakery she always dreamed of opening, with Miles investing not out of pity, but because he believes in her. And every morning when she wakes up in that house that's now hers too, she hugs Charlie, kisses Lucy on the forehead, and finds Miles in the kitchen waiting with a cup of hot chocolate, because some rituals deserve to be eternal. Just as she discovered that love can change everything, each of us also carries that power of transformation within. Sometimes you just need the courage to accept the outstretched hand when it appears, even if your own hands are empty.
Stories like this remind us that it's never too late to start over and believe in love. That the bravest people are those who, even after losing everything, still find the strength to trust again. That true homes aren't built from bricks and windows, but from hugs, laughter, and silent promises that, no matter how cold it is outside, there will always be warmth inside. And that love, when it's real, doesn't demand perfection, just presence, vulnerability, and the willingness to walk side by side, even when the path is covered in snow. If this story touched you in some way, if it made your heart ache or your eyes well up, write in the comments, "Love transforms lives." We want to know how this journey of Sabrina, Miles, and Lucy resonated with you, and what new beginnings you're also waiting to see bloom this spring in your own life. And if you made it this far, if you followed every step of this emotional journey, then you already know what to do. Subscribe to Eternal Romance Stories. Here, with each episode, you'll experience emotions that warm the soul, stories that remind you why it's worth believing in love, and reflections that transform the heart. Because in the end, we all deserve stories that make us feel alive, and that's exactly what we deliver to you week after week. And this was just one of many stories that will still move you here. Because as long as there are beating hearts, there will be love stories waiting to be told. And we'll be here, always, ready to make you believe again. Until the next journey, until the next new beginning, until the next love that changes everything.